Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I'm the president, founder, and our chief listening officer here at our network, where we have 29 live broadcasts each and every week. Our show today is the Corner Bookstore, where we feature best-selling authors, brand new authors, wannabe authors, authors who wrote something and put it in a box somewhere and haven't brought it out yet to be published. Joining me is my friend and co-host and colleague. Her name is DIANN FLOYD BOEHM, and she's a huge part of our platform here, as she has traveled the world and she has connections all over. She's introduced us to so many people. She's an award-winning author herself, in addition to so many other things. She's one of our expert presenters here in our Talking Heads platform. She's one of our certified elevated listeners, which means she listens at a whole new level. And she's a really nice person who leads with her heart. Let's welcome her, and then we'll bring out our guest. Welcome, DIANN.
Hi, you always make me feel so good. Thank you, Dr. JACALYN.
Well, thank you. You know, I was just having a chat about you yesterday because Zane Carson Carruth was here as our guest on the business show, and I was introduced to you by her. And it's amazing what's happened in the last year and a half.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful person. And her books are amazing, aren't they?
They really are. They're beautiful. I actually have one of them right here today.
There you go.
Very ever. Yes. So DIANN, I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing, because every time I see you, you have created something new. You've won another award, and I don't know how you do all of it. And you do everything at the highest level. So tell our audience, if they're not familiar with your work, about what it is that motivates you and your latest creation, your latest project.
Oh, you're so sweet. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. What motivates me is the fact that I was blessed to be born and discover all these wonderful things about life and ups and downs and people, and discover various talents that come about at different times in your life. And I love sharing them. And from singing, being on stage, and now taking I've always been a storyteller, and taking my stories and putting them to print. I just want to write books for people to realize that they're beautiful, to love themselves just the way they are, discover their talents and bring them about. And even if someone says, oh, you can't sing, if singing makes you happy, you sing. And yes, it might take a while, because I remember once my fifth grade teacher said I couldn't be in the choir, but I worked and worked and worked until finally she said, okay. And obviously I can sing now. So I just want to make people happy and be glad they woke up in the morning and listen to the birds and sing. And anyway, if I had a magic wand, Dr. JACALYN, that's what I would do. I'd spread happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like you'd like to teach the world to read. How about that? Instead
teach the world to read and sing. Sing and read. Listen to the birds and the butterflies.
And one thing I've learned from you and also from Zane is that children's books are not just for children. They're actually for adults. There's a lesson in there for all of us. And I love that when we have something to read that really has purpose, that we can take something away from it. And our guest today has done just that. It's amazing. I was reading a little bit about her background, and not only is she a best-selling author, is she an actress, she is, I think the term is a hobbyist, medieval hobbyist. She's a traveler. She leads corporate training. She's a podcaster. And we just met her backstage, and she's quite lovely. Let's bring her out.
Yeah, she is.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So happy to be here. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn and Diann. And yes, so yes, I am a kind of person who has to be kept very busy, and I love a wide variety of things. So I'm always working to focus on what is at hand. I've had a very diversified career, and still I consider myself a portfolio professional. I guess that's the new term for when in the new world where many of us are working remotely, and we have 3 or 4 or 5 pots on the stove at any given time, which is great. And which I teach a lot of young professionals as well. And I'm like, you have to have your own brand. Then you diversify. So that's one of the ways that I work. But I'm so thrilled to be here. And a few things you said already so piqued my interest. One was about, children's books being for everyone. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Can't think of anything better than sitting in the kids section of the library on the floor reading books. And I don't have kids. So, and in fact, I just wrote a children's book, and in the process of finalizing the illustrations. So more on that in the future, because huge fan. And and also what Diann was saying about singing. Yes, I similarly, studied song and was in choir in school. And, but, you find as you grow up, there's less and less times to kind of sing unless you make it intentional. And it literally, Diann, I'm sure you relate to, is one of the happiest things I do. And mostly I forget to do it. And I've been trying to remember to do it more because, as you know, my book is Live for Joy, and it's about joy and a lifestyle of emotional wellness. And for me, singing is part of that even.
That's beautiful.
Totally.
And I love the title of your book, Emotional Wellness. I just think that's a powerful statement.
We just need it so much.
So pretty too, your book cover.
Yes,
it's really very.
And you know what? And it's not just the cover, you guys. So this book, I'm gonna pull one of these down. It was really a labor of love, and it started out really when I was writing a lot of motivational, inspirational, even philosophical pieces for my social media and for Twitter, and people started asking me, you should really put these in a book. But I'd always taken painstaking time to pick beautiful images, art, photography, nature, that really spoke to us. I mean, I'm an actress, I'm an author, I'm like all very eclectic person. I like using all the senses. I'm like, it really needs to be an experience. So this book, like, you can open, we'll see, I don't know what I'm going to get. Any page has beautiful and interesting art that is very specifically paired with the messages. So This is an unusual book. I went to develop I wanted to make a self-empowerment book. There's the same one that really would take you only a minute or 2 a day. You didn't have to read a whole chapter. You didn't even necessarily have to, listen to a whole podcast. You didn't, if you just had a minute or 2, you could sit down and take something away. And a lot of people will just keep it on their bedside table, or like I'm having dyslexia right now because we can't tell which way is left and right. But it's a 280 book. It's like a really amazing book. And of course I have the digital one and a paperback, but it's just one of those, like, it's such a nice gift book, and it has 12 chapters. I'll just tell you now because I get so excited, and then you'll know what it's all about. So it's really about, it's not just everything is about joy. It's about our entire life and how we approach emotional wellness. So the 12 chapters are 12 different areas, like how to wake up your potential. So all of us as creators, artists, singers, writers, like, we understand how that speaks to us. And a lot of people are trapped in jobs where they don't get to express their soul and their creativity. So what is your potential? Setting your navigation, like, where are you really going? And I'm also a coach, so obviously that resonates. I love this one, chapter 5. I'm a lover of the world. I love traveling. My Twitter says, where you located, it says world citizen. I'm a humanitarian. So I have this chapter called Be a Benevolent World Citizen. So, like, what are all the things that help you build your joy? Being a benevolent world citizen. We have one on nature, perspective, time, listening to your inner genius, your gut, your instincts, you know, how can you coach yourself basically? And then so much more, of course, a whole chapter on joy specifically. And one of my very favorite chapters is the last one, it's chapter 12, and it's called Learn to Love the Endings. Because a lot of times
Wow.
I feel like the endings always feel like terminal. It feels like we face them with sadness instead of joy, you know, whether it's an end of a job or a relationship or perfect health, right? But that in your life to fill even the endings with joy. A lot of those are just transitions. So I'll show you one. This is one of the shortest passages in the book, but I just love it. So this is a beautiful photo of a man and a woman, and the message is gratitude and joy are ageless, even as time goes by. Gratitude and joy are ageless, even as time goes by. Like, you can just sit in it, you know? You get what I'm saying? Like, this is what this book is.
That is so cool. I got chills. I got chills with that last one. And that picture of the ocean to the mountains. I have something similar in Portugal. So I don't know where that was taken, but it reminds me of being in Portugal.
I think it might be, I think it is the Mediterranean. I think it's Greece, but yes, very, very resonant of that. And yeah, I love Portugal. I love Porto. That's my favorite city in Portugal.
Very nice.
Oh, I can't wait to go back.
Very nice.
But yeah, so it's an elevating book, but not just like make you feel good, like rah rah for the day. There is chapters how to motivate yourself and inspire yourself, but also kind of it's taking it a step deep with no religion in it. It's almost there's a spirituality to it. It's kind of like dropping in to your inner self and finding your truth. And like, when was the last time I was willing to just have a new perspective, see the other side? Like a lot of what brings us our grief and suffering is this rigidity that we carry in our emotions and in our bodies. And like, we're always kind of in this fight mode, and we always have an opinion about everything, and everybody wants to be right. And it really just robs us of like that more inner peace that we really say we want. But then most of us are like, well, how do I get there?
Right. There's a disconnect there. We do have a couple of comments. Let's take a look. Our friend Adam joining us from the UK. Good evening, you wonderful women. Hello. He also writes, I have a question. Why do us adults sometimes forget to communicate with our emotional side of the mindset?
That is so good. What a good question, Adam. The emotional side of the mindset. The simplest, I think there's two simple answers. One is programming. So we were programmed at a young age that being emotional was somehow less than. That expressing our opinions depends a lot on your family and your background, but expressing your opinions or having strong feelings, or what if, you know, like I was born a very artistic person into a very unartistic family. So you kind of get that beat down where it's like, no, you can't fully express yourself. It's not okay. And then the second part of that question, I'm going to have to go from memory now. Why do we not express the emotional side of our mindset? There it is. Ooh, I did good. Emotional side of our mindset. With the programming, I think it's a lot of it is around, honestly, it's fear of getting to know ourselves. We say that it's fear of other people's opinions, and there is some truth to that, but I think it's a fear of getting to know ourselves. And that is the greatest investment we can ever make in our emotional wellness, in our growth, in our well-being. It sounds like a lot, but learning to kind of make peace with ourselves, do what it takes, go on the journey, get the support. And you know, I right now, I was just sharing with the doctor and with Diann that I live in two places. I live in California some, and then also in a beautiful mountain resort town on a lake in Idaho. And it's a tiny town. There's 3,500 people here. I never dreamed I would ever live in a town like this. But nature, as you can tell from my book, nature totally feeds my soul. And, you know, today I was out walking and I just ran across a mother deer and two fawns with their little white spots. And I live in this amazing woods. And I'm just like, hello, free thing. Like, no collar, no tether. I mean, they have their own hazards. I'm like, what is just being? Just eating. You could hear it was so quiet outside. I could hear their teeth tearing the grass off. And I was like, you know, probably at least 30 feet away. And I was like, what is it to just be? like just to be whole in yourself without all the striving and all of the, oh, they're going to judge me and I judge myself. And like, what if you could just take that off and just listen to your emotions? They're incredibly intelligent, by the way, and I can always talk more about that later. But your emotions are actually one of the smartest parts of you, and we've been taught it's the reverse. So that's my answer to Adam. Very long answer. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much. We also have a comment from Heather Grant. Live for Joy is super motivating and inspiring. I read at least one quote from it every day. Awesome.
Yay. Thank you, Heather.
Yay.
So happy that you tuned in. And I did post this to all my people, so I'm glad they're watching. Yes, I'm so glad. And that is the takeaway. It's the simplicity of it that is kind of beautiful. And it's just a really beautiful gift too, but just the simplicity. It's enough to just think on for the day, like a food for thought. I grew up in an extraordinarily extreme religious environment. And in that environment, we had, you had a lot of tools for starting your day, and nothing against religion and whatever workings for you, spirituality, I like, that's amazing. But we had a lot of sort of spiritual tools or religious tools, and a lot of those things were like the once a day kind of, a reading or a phrase or a verse. And, when I was no longer so fully immersed in that, I was like, I want that kind of, I'll use the word blessing because some of you will resonate that. I want that kind of blessing for people without an agenda, without dogma. Like, just what is it? What are the takeaways of those deep messages that really speak to your heart and make you think and change how you behave in your space? So that was really, I felt like this book, even though it's not exactly one per day, but it's pretty damn close.
Thanks for sharing that. Diane, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. That's what I'm very excited about your book, and I think it does exactly what you said. If you just read one a day, how one person's going to read it depends on where they are on their journey in life. But it seems like you do get to know yourself, and I thought it was really important how you said it's an learn to know who you are, and you'll grow. And the other thing you said that really resonated with me is that, and I'd love to learn more about it, and I'm sure Dr. JACALYN, you know so much with your different shows, because I think of various shows that that this all relates to, which is, you said emotion. Did I get it correctly? You said emotion was, you listen to it's very smart. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like our emotion is so incredibly wise, and we've been taught that emotion is weak and that intellect is what you should follow. And I'm just learning more and more. I mean, I've been doing this for years, and the more I study and grow even myself, the more I realize how incredibly valuable emotion is. Your gut instincts, like your mind says, oh, I'm going to work with this group of people on a project. And you just you don't feel good. Every day doesn't feel right, but you're like, intellectually, this is like a really good choice. This is a good financial decision. And then in the end, it goes bust. And you're like, there we go. Once again, like, you just know your emotions are so intelligent. That's what the wild animals have, is their instinct. It's their feelings, their sensory experience. And our sensory experience is just more complex. And really learning to trust it. Now, sometimes we carry baggage and damage, and, we always want to be working to be in a healthy space so that you can trust it. When someone has an anxiety attack, there's something is usually off, right? And I've experienced that myself, right? So how do you kind of find an equilibrium and find, you can kind of learn to, what your core trust is. And then the surface emotions, they're like the ripples or waves on the lake, right? You can they're going to be up and down, but when you have a grounded space, you can kind of take that deep breath. And a lot of that is trusting our emotions, and just, that's what emotional well-being is, knowing that you can trust yourself. And that's what so much of what this book is about, is like getting grounded, dropping in, being able to just kind of come from a place of peace. And when you're in that space, then you really can have joy. Then, I mean, I live my life like a kid. It's partly why I don't have kids, because I just wanted to be a kid for my whole life. And yes, like then you have this desire. I have 9 nieces and nephews, though. I have plenty of children in my life, so very grateful for them. But just celebrating life, When's the last time you just sat on the floor and played a board game, or like, just kind of just getting back into your body? I've lived with chronic pain. I have titanium in my spine. I understand what it's like to go through physical challenges. But when do you say, okay, there's also a space where the mind and the body are so connected and such a big part of our emotional wellness, right? Where I let the body celebrate too. I live healthfully. I do the unexpected. I swing on swings every time I go past a playground, and people are always like, does she has no kids? But like, what is like embracing the fun, getting back into like embracing that joy, that freedom of just being alive, that freedom you see in a beautiful baby or child's face when they're just so bright and just laughing and happy for no particular reason. It's just that they're alive, and we still have access to that. And that's what I coach around and teach around, whether it's individuals or CEOs or corporate groups or, a women's group or whatever, is how do you just tap back in? And it's not complicated. You don't have to have a special diet. You don't have to sit cross-legged for 20 years. It's just it's like the book. It's little incremental, just slight adjustments of the dial every day. Nothing dramatic or traumatic. It's just little adjustments. And which later, when we're done, I have a giveaway for your followers and listeners, and it's going to be a tool that will help them do just that for free. So,
Wow.
Thanks for sharing that for our audience. I do have a question for you based on something you said in the beginning of the interview. And also what I'm taking away is the sense of curiosity that you have and looking at the world in a different way. So you mentioned about having numerous pots on the stove, so to speak, and especially for women. I know when I was in my corporate career up till 2020, I had a number of side gigs, and I was always having rocks thrown at me, specifically by men, about, you don't know what you're doing. You're obviously really confused and lost. And the truth is, I have this curiosity, which I know Diann has, and I sense that you have it as well. And so should that be a punishment to be curious and want to dabble into all these different things? Or are we supposed to just do one thing the whole rest of our life? That's kind of boring, isn't it?
There's so many different personalities. And some people, like I have one of my siblings, literally works in a cubicle from 9 to 5, and it's their greatest joy because anything that goes outside structure stresses them out. So that's amazing. Cool. I would die. So I would just shrivel up and die. Like you have, finding what works for you. Some people are very monofocused and they're extremely good at what they do. That's great. Other people are monofocused and missing out on the other dimensions of their life. And this is why I love working with entrepreneurs or CEOs and working around, their leadership and life development, because it's like, when was the last time you did one of those passions that you absolutely loved? It doesn't even have to be for money, but when was the last time you did woodwork or built sailboats or, wrote, or what are the things that feed you, right? And I think it's the same for careers. Becoming diversified is the new normal, and even for a lot of men. So, there's old school thinking will always be old school thinking, but for a long time, I suppressed a lot of this work I do now because I was an actress, and and I still am. I just had an audition yesterday, and I was afraid that in that kind of in an old Hollywood mindset, if you're not 100% of an actress, you're not an actress. Either you're on or you're not. So for a long time, I would kind of keep my other interests quiet because I didn't want, my reps and stuff to like, oh, she's not really, folks. She's just dabbling. And I'm like, no, I can do this fully. I can do this fully, because it doesn't matter what percentage of your life these things are. When you're on, are you doing it fully? When you're writing a book, are you doing it fully? When you're doing an audition, are you doing it fully? When you're coaching with your clients, are you just full and present? And so, yes, you should celebrate it. If that's what turns your lights on and makes you thrive, and for me, that's true, then yes, I have this book. I just wrote a children's book. This year has been crazy. I've been doing almost, helping run almost a retreat a month in incredible and beautiful places. I just was asked to join a partnership with 4 other women to start a new a women-run corporation around wellness, physical and mental and emotional wellness. Like, I have so many things going on. People actually laugh, and I'm like, but I'm like so alive. I'm so alive. Why would I want to just be like, the horses, the little blinders they wear, to keep the sun out? I'm like, why would I just want to? This makes me grow and thrive. And if someone else, my dad's an aerospace engineer, legitimately, he was a rocket scientist. He worked for NASA, he worked for Boeing. He is extremely monofocused human being, and he's incredibly good at what he does. So if that brings him satisfaction, I may have a question about that, but if he's fully satisfied with that, awesome. I am not. I have to like flourish and thrive, and that's how I'm wired. And so I used to hide it, and now I'm just proud of it. And I'm like, you know what? There'll always be the naysayers and the critics and the people who are like, oh, you're a woman, you can or you can't. And I'm like, you probably just wish you had as much joy in your life as I do.
But guess what the difference is? You're doing it, and it makes you fascinating. It makes you very interesting.
Yeah.
I see a lot of synergy, Dr. JACALYN, between the two of you. You're going to have to meet off.
Yeah, we really should have coffee.
Definitely. So when you think about living for joy, people are living a lot longer, right? People, we do another show about how you can live to be 100. How can we embrace that joy as we get older, because our interests change, our body's changing, our memory might be changing? How does that lust for joy evolve?
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good question. And one moment. One of my joys is having 3 mini schnauzers who love to bark. Yeah, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. And for me, I see it night and day. The people who really are pursuing their passions and not just sitting back and letting life happen are the people who live longer and are more vivacious. And we already know, like, having a busy, healthy mind, having good habits makes your quality of life better. I know 2 different retired people right now that are fighting Parkinson's disease, which is a terrible and just a terribly destructive disease. And one of them has completely isolated, never leaves the house, even though they absolutely could, and just has completely become 100% self-obsessed, very unhappy, always uncomfortable, always focused on their suffering. And I feel for them. The other one is like made this a point of, I'm going to create a safe space for other people with Parkinson's disease to talk and find community. And she sits out on her front porch. She has people over for coffee. Once a week, she goes to a meeting and encourages other people. She still works at a nonprofit organization part-time, even though she's in a wheelchair. And her quality of life is incredible and abundant. So it just goes to show, like, if you follow your joy, and for me and for probably both of you and many of our listeners, if they're interested in this show, a lot of their joy comes from serving others, bringing them amazing books, bringing them amazing services, whatever that is. When you live for others, that's a big part of the book too, is you really are finding your joy and living what makes you happy, and remembering that living expansively versus living in like a fear, shame space, that will keep you alive. And I can't predict the future, but I would say the quality of life alone, regardless of the years, I know which of those 2 people I would want to be.
Absolutely. Another question that just came to mind is to find our joy, to actually walk and step into what it is that we're meant to do, and feel that it has purpose, helping other people. Many times we have to let go of that old dollar bill. We've got to let go of a paycheck. Ooh, it's so painful. I did it myself, but I have my joy. I don't have the money that I used to have, but I'm so much happier. But people get stuck there. They get so stuck holding on desperately to the check. What can you share with them about that?
We have an old school mindset, I think, around security. And that comes from our parents and grandparents, many of whom, or great grandparents, whatever our generation is that, was through, back living in World War II or even the Depression, right? And there's that mindset also sort of an American, and I know Adam's here and other people watching from other countries, but I'll speak for this, sort of this, an American entitlement to abundance. I think that's very accurate, actually. And it's different from many of my European friends. Of course, they all want to succeed, but I have so many friends all over the world who can live very simply and a very high quality of life, but they don't need the 5-car garage. They don't need the extra fancy jewelry. They're really much more about experiential. Think of where you travel and the focus on food, focus on conversation, and not just about materialism. So part of being hung up on the check is really an ego thing. We don't want to change how we appear to others, which is kind of a weak excuse for being happy, or it's a fear thing. Like, I'm afraid I won't be taken care of through my old age, or, what if I don't have enough to pay my bills? So I think there's a fine line around the fear, which is, how simply could you live and still be happy if you had to? If you knew that you would be happy, I've just done this myself. I'm going to share this right now. So the last 2 years, I sold a car, moved, and planned to buy another one in my new city. And I never got around to it. And COVID happened. And then car prices, So I just, all of it, I'm like, and then when I'm in this small town up here, like, I could literally bike anywhere. Like, who really needs a car? Now, there are challenges, like when I want to go to a big airport, that's an issue. But so for the last 2 years, I've lived without a car, which is the first time since I was a freshman in high school. Like, my old car was a beater in high school. I was so embarrassed with that car, but it was a car. I had wheels until now. I've now just lived for 2 years without a car. And in a way, I kept returning to it. I'm like, of course I could buy a car. But I'm like, this has just been a really social experiment about how is your happiness controlled by what we consider our rights and entitlements. And I am as happier now without a car, which is crazy, than I was, And again, I would speak to a lot of my European friends who maybe their whole household has one car and they use public transportation a lot, and they're not so attached to this stuff. And this is a really fair question to ask ourselves around our fear of losing the check, I think.
Yes. Great points that you just made. I was obsessed with the red soled shoes, designer handbags. When I tell you I am in socks, okay, I do 29 hours. I'm in socks or slippers and a dress. Okay. I haven't even worn the shoes in 2 years. I don't even need the handbags because I don't go anywhere. It's so amazing. But at the time, you're obsessed with it. I have to have it. The car sits on the driveway. I drive it once every 3 weeks to go to the grocery store. I don't need it. So it's Diane. What about you? What have you given up that you didn't realize you didn't need?
I definitely grew up with parents from the Depression, and so I have that whole thing of making sure you hoard and don't go, and eat all the food on your plates. But I think the older that I've gotten is because I do enjoy clothes, because I grew up in the days where you had a new. First of all, you wore dresses to school, so that's why I'll say this, because that was the rules. So you got your 5 new dresses for school, and you didn't get a new dress till Christmas or Easter or whatever, and your shoes, and so you would get teased a lot. But so I absolutely love having clothes, but I'll do recycled clothes and just add some lace to it or things like that. I don't go for, I couldn't tell you a designer if I needed one, so, but what have I given up? I think I've lived kind of basic already. My grandmother was exactly what you were sharing about. She made sure she lived where she could. And she was blessed because then those days and age, people didn't look down on you for taking public transportation.
Right.
They thought you were smart. And then all of a sudden, like by my generation, it was like, what? You take a bus? What's wrong with you? And actually, it's wonderful to use public transportation. But I think also because I've lived in different countries and learned how to get around. And so, for example, if you're in Denmark, you just take the trains. That's what you do. I mean, the country's too small for everybody to have a car, and it's just fun, and you meet people. And so I can't think if I had to give up anything, it would be, do I really need all these? I love vintage. So, and I love scarves. And so, and I've received them because, like, I have my grandmother's scarves, my aunt's scarves, my mama's scarves. I have purses from the 60s. So, I think if you were to go to my house, you would be like, okay, do you really need all those things? But, but the thing is, I'll say, oh, I remember when my Aunt Pat carried this with her beautiful blue gloves. And so they all have a story, so I can't part with them yet. So it's not because of abundance, it's because there's a story to them.
And joy.
Yeah.
That's a joy.
Yeah.
That's not like a massive expenditure that you're constantly making. It's just, it's what you already have, and it brings you a lot of joy. And that's different too.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I do love cars though. I really do love cars.
I love cars too.
My dad was a car dealer, so
yeah. I mean, I'm so envious of Jay Leno. He has so many cars. So it's like, what's my personality today? I think I'll drive this car.
I want to go back to Ann when you were talking about being outside and you see that deer and just enjoying. And we have a lot of birds where I am, and I see them. I think, what would it be like to be a bird just soaring through? And that's what I think we need more of. I feel like that's what you're saying, to maybe look at the animal kingdom and just shed some of these layers that we're carrying and these bags of bricks and things and expectations and get in the moment.
Oh, I love the illustration of the bird so much. And if there are past lives, I'm pretty sure I was one. I absolutely am obsessed with birds. And yes, and it's like a bird couldn't fly with all those bags and purses.
That's very true.
I love that.
I mean, what do we really need, you know? And again, if there's things we have and they bring us joy, fine. But if it's to decide, and also I think we all hit a point in life where what is more important, people's opinions or our happiness?
I love that.
It's a deep, deep trap.
It is.
We think that we will be happy when people think highly of us. And the truth is, we're only happy when we're happy with ourselves.
That is so true. You can have, and we see it all over the world, people who have everything and yet they're the most unhappy. And, you know, I think I loved how you said you love to travel, and I do too. And I've been very fortunate. And in the travels, I'm sure you saw this as well. It is amazing when you see a little kid and they're just so happy they made they got the big long stick and they got a little round thing and then they put it all together and then they roll it and they're as happy as a lark. They didn't have their great big giant fancy one that does the popping and so forth. And you're like, you know, that's the simplicity of life. And takes it back to your book. And, I'd love to see more pictures of it and how people can order it and how they can learn more about growing in joy. And I love how you talked about, and it's something you and Dr. JACALYN have together, the listening. The listening is so, so important. And I think it sounds like you bring that into your own workplace.
Yes. Yes. And it can be so simple, you know, and so I'll share it briefly. So the book, you can find it on barnesandnoble.com, a lot of platforms. The easiest one and usually the best price, because they adjust the price sometimes. It's so strange. It's kind of good, actually, is Amazon. That's the easiest place to buy it. Just Live for Joy or my name, Ann Scottlin. It'll just pop up, digital, paperback, or hardcover. If you are a very visual and kind of sensory person, it's amazing to have it in hand. It's just literally the way it was designed. And you'll see, like, with the photos, and you will love seeing other pictures. You can just look at the pictures sometimes and not even the words, and you get a message, or vice versa, whatever speaks to you in that moment, or together. But it's like, okay, so here's what I'll share one more with you just because I get excited. So we were talking about creativity and all those things. So I love this picture. This is incredible art.
Wow.
And, you know, he's opening up the universe by finding his soul music. Or see, then the different pictures, this was art's amazing, right? Different things for different people. And the message is, in nature, art, and music, the creative heart finds itself at home. In nature, art, and music, the creative heart finds itself at home. And it's such a simple message, but then you're like, did I play music today? I forget a lot, actually. Have I been out in nature today? Am I a person with a creative heart and soul that needs to feed that? It's just simple, but beautiful. So you can find the book on Amazon and other places. But then I also have, so the first step in living for joy is creating an awareness about your joy, which is exactly what we're talking about as far as, the jobs, the paychecks, diversifying, not diversifying, like all these things that kind of weigh our mind down or set us free, depending on like if we're going through transition, right? So the first thing is really discovering an awareness about your joy, becoming aware, just changing your thinking to notice what brings you joy and what pulls it away. It's really shocking sometimes. In this conversation we've had is perfect. The things that we most treasure often are the things that have actually pulled us away from our joy. Fascinating. So I have for you a beautiful full color journal. It's only a 1-week journal, and it's a joy journal, and it helps you discover your awareness. And it's a secret page on my website, and it's also here on the screen or in the notes, it's AnnScottlin.com. If you happen to be just listening, that's ANNESCOTTLIN, not the country, AnnScottlin.com/joy journal. So it's a full color digital journal that you can print out and handwrite in, or it's set up where you can type directly into the pages on the journal. And it's just a few moments of observation in the morning, like 1 or 2 sentences that you answer, and then a couple moments of observation in the evening. And again, you answer. Sometimes in the morning will be like, watch for this today. And the evening will be kind of like, what did you see or observe? And suggestions of how to really become more aware of what gives you joy and what takes your joy away. So it's just a beautiful, simple tool. It's 1 week. You can always do it again. But if that's a great way to start kind of discovering what you might be missing in your life and your joy.
I love that.
Yes. And what's coming to me is, and I'd love to have you back on to discuss this further, is when your joy is being suppressed because you're in an environment where others are not joyful and they have this influence on you, and yet you're struggling. And so I'd love to have you come back and talk about that. And also your children's book. I'd love to hear more about that as well.
Yes. And probably there'll be launched somewhere in the next 3 to 4 months, in which case, we could have one just on that. And it's about joy. It's in the title, just so you know.
I've got the joy
Yes, I love that song too.
Well, it's kind of like, as you spoke about it as a child, and children are so authentic and playful. And then what is it? When is it? What is that moment in time when all of a sudden we're being reprimanded and our joy is being taken from us because an adult is telling us that what we're doing isn't appropriate right now? Stop fooling around. Stop acting like a child. And then as adults, we struggle to find it the rest of our lives until now with you and your book.
And it's no shock that we care about like what people think of us or our material possessions when, as a child, the whole thing was when we were wrong, it's usually because we wouldn't conform.
That is so true. And we're finding that young children are having more emotional problems now because they're going to school at a much younger age. And so they're having to follow these strict rules because they're in a big class and the teacher can only do so much, even if she or he has an assistant. And so, it's like, it's very, very tough. Like, they might be interested in painting, but right now you have to sit in the circle and shut up and be quiet and listen because it's story time, and it does take away the joy. I know. And so I'm a former educator, and I used to go into different schools and so forth and deal with curriculum. And I would be amazed at the very young kids and watching their joy leave their face because of some extremely rigid rules. And when I was teaching young children, I didn't have that. I had a goal for them for the day, but they got to acquire that goal based on what moved and made them happy. And because I think if you lose that child inside of you, then it's very, very hard to enjoy life. So my kids crack up because every year they get a new toy for Christmas.
I love that.
Great.
I love that.
I pay attention.
I just bought myself a toy. And now I can't even remember. Oh, a kaleidoscope.
Oh, I love
them.
kaleidoscopes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And, I have it sitting on my bedside table. And I was like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's a kaleidoscope."
kaleidoscope.
I'm like, it's just so amazing. Like, yes, because we should have that. Because when we do lose that identity and that joy, and we really just kind of become robots. We become part of the system. We live in a system, so we do have to figure out how to, not just be anarchists. There are certain. I'm a realist, surprisingly. Like there's a certain point to have a peaceful and happy life. There's a certain amount of conformity that will probably exist for most people, but there's so many other areas, and like the Joy Journal and my book, where you can start adjusting that dial just a little bit. And I relate to like what you're saying about, I have a very strange upbringing. So again, more for another day, but again, in this extreme religious environment, I too had to wear dresses to school. In fact, I didn't go to school until I was almost 16. I was homeschooled, not homeschooled now where there's like this whole co-op, but like homeschooled out in the middle of nowhere with just my family and my 2 little brothers. And, so there was some flexibility there as far as, say, time management and what you did when. Although my mom was a teacher, she had a master's, she was pretty structured, surprisingly structured for homeschool. Of course, I was really missing the social part. But then, even though there's like almost some freedom in that, I was being groomed to be, either a missionary or a martyr or whatever we were. And so theater or the arts or fiction or any of that was like totally not part of our culture and discouraged. And so again, it's so crazy. You can be in so many different environments, but I think teaching kids, and again, I'm not a parent, so I step aside for those who have that hands-on experience, but whether they're in traditional school or not traditional school, what happens at home is so important, because even if you are part of that structure, even if you are part of the system, if you are connecting to that child and helping them grow and develop the gifts they were born with, they can still live a very expansive and happy life. I've been just talking to another woman recently, and we're working on a program to help parents who are parents of empathic children. So children that have been hard to understand because of their sensitivities, because of, a lot of them are extremely creative, a lot of, how do you help the parents support your children? It's not like spoiling the children. We've seen that too. It's more supporting their inner dynamic. And if you go to school, fine, but at home, how are we still supporting you to be expressive in what you like and find and discover your joy? So I always think there's hope for the future.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. And what a great way to take us out of this particular show. Thank you so much. I'm going to spotlight you again. And if you would let our viewers who are unable to read the banner or people listening on the radio know how to reach you and who you would like to contact you, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, thank you. That's such a great question, actually. So if you'd just like to know more about what I'm doing, you can check me out on my website, AnnScottlin.com. And again, that's ANNESCOTTLIN, AnnScottlin.com. I'm on LinkedIn for those of you in the business world. And then if you want to read some of my content, I have a very active Twitter following right now, like 110K followers on Twitter. I post usually multiple times a day. A lot of original content and a lot of just what I'm doing and programs, things like this. And then if anyone, I still do some coaching, not as much as I used to, but I do individual and group coaching. And if anyone's interested in just taking yourself or your organization to a higher level of leadership, a higher level of wellness, emotional and physical wellness and joy, I love working with you. I have so many repeat and referral clients. I don't even usually promote it, but I'm always looking globally as well. I love it. I work with people all over the world. So reach out. I would love to hear from you. You can email me directly. My email's on my website. I would love to hear from you. I love people. So let's find a way to celebrate and share our joy together.
Thank you so much for being here. I feel so
Thank you.
uplifted. I feel like running through the streets right now. So thank you.
I agree. You are a shining star. How lovely the planet is to have you.
So lovely to be here and just share both of your beautiful energy. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Please do come back and see us on this
I
or any of
will.
our other shows. All right. I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Bye for
Find your
now.
joy today.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care. God bless.
Thanks.
Wow, Diane, so uplifting, right?
I know. My heart is just full of joy from everything that she said. I'm inspired for the rest of the day. So I feel like
I'm already
I was
following her on Twitter. I'm going to go over and get her book, and I encourage everyone else to do the same. And the journal I'm going to do as well. So
yeah, I ditto. I'm going to be just like you. And I already started thinking.
I saw you writing it down backstage.
Oh, you did. and I think each one of my kids are going to get one for Christmas.
Yay!
I call them kids, but as you know, they're all grown up. But in a mom's heart, your children, even when they're 90 and you're still 30, you know, because I'm 30, right? Because I have a mind of a 30-year-old. So
yeah, that's what we've learned today. We're all kids and we need to embrace that. So
that's right.
I need to run off to the film and music show, but I'm going to spotlight you. And if you can let our audience know how they can reach out to you and who you'd like to contact you, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks everyone for watching and listening to the show. You can reach me at DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. And I have a new book here, A Time to Fly. Since we talked about birds and everything, this is a great book. And it is for kids and adults because we all have this moment that's time to fly and discover more about yourself. Thank you, Dr. JACALYN.
All right. Thank you, Diane. I look forward to seeing you again. And for people who don't know, Diane is also the co-host on our fashion, travel, and fitness show and our show called The United Kingdom News and Culture with our expert correspondents from the UK. So, and we have a new show coming very soon as well, a Christianity show.
Yes. Yeah. Be glad when that goes off the ground. You take care.
You too. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Bye.
Thank you to each and every one of you, whether you're watching on the live or the replay. I really do appreciate you being here. And I'm just going to promote my two books. If you have a chance to go over to Amazon, Behind the Green Screen was my first book, and then Adversity to Awesome. So you can learn more about them on Amazon. We're going over to our next show, which is the film and music show with my co-host, Madeline Chan. So you stay wherever you are. If you're on our YouTube channel, please do click subscribe so that you can learn about all the different shows that we have. We stand for education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. It's the Good News Channel. All right. Thanks again. I look forward to being back with you very shortly. Bye, Diane. Bye, Ann. Thank you, Heather.